You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. Hello, my friends. You are in for a very special treat on the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I am going to be sharing the literal behind-the-scenes take on our Royal Arch Loop adventure. So if you listened to episode 16, you kind of got the 1 year later sort of recap from Meg and I about that adventure. And we also happened to have recorded daily episodes out there when we were on the trail. So what you're going to be listening to over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to release 2 episodes a week. From that experience, it was a 4-day trip, so 4 episodes total, is the real raw experience and overview of each of our day on the trail. So it is a lot of fun. There was a lot of painful moments, a lot of challenges, but also a lot of triumph. So I hope that you enjoy this series and that it gives you kind of a peek behind the scenes of what a tough and challenging backpacking adventure looks like, the highs and the lows, the 50-50 experience of it all, and why that makes it an adventure and totally worth it. So I hope you enjoy this series. Let's kick off with our episode. All right, this is day 4 of the Grand Canyon pod with Allison and Meg. And it's going to sound nice and not loud here because we don't have wind, we don't have river water, we don't have Frog Canyon. We are in a hotel because we have officially completed our adventure.
Woo! Woo!
And it was like literally an adventure. It felt like a little Lord of the Rings kind of like a movie, one of the not seasons, but it felt like one of the trilogy.
Yeah,
like
it was
the desert version of it.
Yeah, totally.
But maybe we should start with what today was. Today was our big uphill day.
Uphill day, yes. It's a huge uphill day. So we started off at camp at the lovely Tonto Trail. Literally, just sort of camped on the trail because you can.
We talked about our campsite last night.
Yeah, we did.
I was like, did we mention that? It was a great campsite.
It was a great campsite. It was really tough to leave in the morning.
We woke up at 3 again.
We woke up at 3 again because we were concerned
because of me. I'm like, I didn't want to be in the heat.
And it made sense. I really wanted to sleep till 4, but I'm glad we got up at 3 because it ended up working out.
Yeah.
So we got up at 3 and we hiked maybe a mile and a half or so to the it's to the split where it splits to join the South Bass Trail, and then we went up South Bass Canyon to a water cache we had. And
well, I guess to preface this, today was supposed to be a 4,000 feet.
Yes.
Hike your ass out of the canyon day.
Yes.
And I thought it might be one of our harder days.
Yeah, because it's short and steep. It's still serious, but the benefit is it's mostly a trail that you can recognize as a trail.
Yeah.
So,
you weren't route finding the whole time.
Yeah.
Or getting semi-lost and then refinding yourself.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit in the morning, but that was only because everything looked the same.
And everything was dark. And we were using headlamps.
Yeah. But
then we were in the shade. We got, I don't know, our timing was great. And we got blessed with some, cool weather.
Oh, God, yeah. The wind was, cold. It was so nice. Little did we know that was because snow was coming.
Yeah.
But
I felt like I could do anything up. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't care. I was like, I can't even complain that this is a steep uphill. Like, we're in the shade.
Yeah.
And then it started getting cool. And I was like, I can't. Like, this is great.
mhm.
This is enjoyable uphill hiking.
Yeah, it was really actually not bad at all. Like, we just, had some tunes on. We were just jamming, like, in the flow of things.
Yeah.
It was really, really great and not as bad as we thought. I mean, it had some hard...
hard bouldery steps.
Yeah,
but it was less of that than I thought.
Yeah. It wasn't like we had to use our hands. So
Yeah.
that was a plus.
We didn't have to throw our bodies over anything.
Yeah, no
we
one
weren't
took their packs
scaling
off.
that many cliff sides.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was just beautiful and just a gorgeous morning in the canyon. And then we got up onto the Esplanade layer and we hiked to our cache, and then we had the part we repeated on the first day. So it was kind of nice to have that familiarity as well. And at that point it was cloudy and like breezy, so it was like very, very nice.
Yeah, and like it actually ended up snowing when we got to, like, sleeting when we got to the top of the canyon.
Yeah.
Like some weird weather rolled in right as we like crested and got out of there.
I know, it was like we were hiding under a rock from the heat.
Yeah, like less than 24 hours.
24 hours ago. I was like, that's the Grand Canyon.
That was crazy.
Yeah, my feet were bothering me though a lot today. They just ached. I was just like about halfway up the hill. I was just kind of like, oof. And it started to wear on me mentally a little bit, but it still was not as hard as other things we had done.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for me, I don't know, like today was great. Like, and I normally would not say that about a 4,000 feet of elevation gain day. I think it was literally like not having the heat.
yeah,
Just like, but also I was telling Meg, like for longer hikes, I feel like if you're ever doing a through hike, you get your stride around day 4 too. Like your body starts to just be like, this is what we do now. And it adapts.
I've never been like a long range backpacker, so I've always just said, yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
And in my head there's no way that would be me, but it actually is. It's very true.
Yeah.
Like
Our feet could definitely use a break.
Yeah, we're beat up, but
I have like the most gnarly blisters I've ever had in my life. I look like I have just like my feet don't look like they belong to me.
they don't look like feet. It looks like somebody
Like-
put her toes in a pot of boiling water. I'm looking at them right now.
It's hilarious. Like I was able to hike out just fine with them, but they look bad.
Yeah, they look.
The Grand Canyon. I'm not I don't get blisters. The Grand Canyon ruined me.
I mean, it looks like she needs medical attention. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty bad.
I'm hoping they subside in like a couple of days.
Yeah.
I just wrapped them in paper tape and I was like, I'm just going to ignore these. I have sausage toes now.
Yeah. I've only got 2 small ones. I usually get a blister too.
She has them on the tippy tips of her pinky, like,
Pinky
toes.
That's it. Okay, so what was it? What are our things of the day? I'm trying to remember.
Surprising,
Best
and
moment
hardest?
Best moment, worst moment, and surprise. Something that's surprising.
Yeah.
So, best moment, man. I really liked when we turned onto the South Bass Trail and you could look out and the sun was coming up and like the inner canyon area.
Yeah.
And it was just like this like beautiful light. And we were still in the shade. So we got to enjoy it, but we didn't have to like sit in the sun and worry.
Yeah.
It was just gorgeous. And there was a little bit of color in the clouds above us. It was just really nice. My worst moment was pulling up onto the Esplanade layer. Like my feet just started, they just ached. It wasn't like my muscles were aching. It was just like the bottom of my feet was just tired of touching ground.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh God, we still got like another mile and probably close to 1,000 feet of uphill. So I need to ignore this. And then most surprising was the weather.
Yeah.
For sure. I was not expecting snow. It snowed.
Yeah.
Like,
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. I'll just start with surprising because it's the same. Basically, the weather and that fact that we were like hiking up this steep uphill and we were getting like cool refrigerator air in our face. And I was like, what did we do to deserve? It's like the Grand Canyon blessed us.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you earned it, girls. Like,
Yeah.
So I just took that as good omen. And so that was most surprising. and maybe also a tie for the best. But I'll say my best moment was, I'll do my hardest moment. I'll end on the best. Hardest, I actually didn't have a lot of hardest moments on this part. Like, the uphill was hard, but if I had to pick a moment, it would be when we were hiking in the dark. And there was this, like, one section, and Meg knows this about me now, like, my biggest fear is when it's, like, a hard rock layer with, like, a thin layer of gravel on top, and it dips down into, like, Death Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
There was this one section, and it was dark, and I looked down, and, like, this is where I die. And I was like, it was, like, 2 steps, but it looks, like, terrified me. I was like, well, I don't love this.
Yeah.
But you're like, you have to cross it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
I was like, you've been through worse at this point.
So that was, like, my worst moment of the day, like, mentally, I guess. And then, uphill's hard, but honestly, like, I don't know. We've been doing, like, uphills for a long time, so I feel like you could just kind of get used to your body in uphill.
You just go to a place. It wasn't in the heat, so it was fine. You go to a place. You go to a place that you know exists in your mind where you just, like...
You just get in a groove with your body and your breathing.
Yep. Focus. Sometimes I'll count continuously to 4 over and over again. Sometimes I'll listen to music. Sometimes I'll distract myself with a view, but it's a place. It's just like this pace and have been to many times. Mm-hmm. So you can call upon it at any time. But it's a place where you don't have to think hard, which I think was nice about today. Like, because the whole rest of the trip, there's a lot of thinking.
There's a lot of thinking. The day was less mental.
Yeah.
Best moment, though, for me was, like, the last 300 feet. I just, like, had a big smile on my face. I just, like, felt so proud of us.
Yeah.
And, like, all we had done. And I don't know. I was just, like, a couple bad bitches just, like, out here slaying the Royal Arch Loop. That was, like, terrifying. And just representing, like, we didn't run into, like, hardly anybody else on the trail. Like, I'm just really... It was hard. It was scary. It was technical.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest backpacking trip. Yeah. Hardest, most technical backpacking trip I've ever been on. I was even telling Meg, like, I even felt like it was harder physically than, like, the John Muir Trail.
Yeah. I could see that.
I mean, like, if you took, like, a 4-day section out of the John Muir Trail, like, because that's obviously, like, longer, but I don't know. That's my opinion about that.
Yeah. I think it was the hardest backpacking route I've ever done. And I've done a lot of everything that we did on that trip, but
it's like all the combined and the weight and like
combined and the weight and day in, day out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it was 100% worth it. I thought it was a beautiful route. I think what made it special and what I kept telling Allison was that every day was so different. Every day
it was super unique.
Yeah, every day was like a different challenge, a different landscape, a different set of skills, and it changed. So it wasn't like you were grinding in a horrible place. You would have a new horrible every day.
Yeah.
But like it kind of like erased the last horrible in a way. Like you're like, oh, it wasn't as bad as the first day.
Yeah. That's like why we were on our uphill, we were discussing like how this would be like kind of a Lord of the Rings adventure. Like if we were drawing a map, like what the different landmarks would be and like the different sections would be called.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait to draw that.
Yeah, that's going to be super fun.
Next.
Check out the show notes. We'll link to it there.
This is for the future podcast that doesn't exist
yet. This is our pretend podcast. Yeah, okay, so what have we got here? We have like...
Oh, we wanted to do a wrap-up of just like the Royal Gorge, or sorry, I keep saying Royal Gorge. Royal Arch Loop trip. Yeah. Like just some summary thoughts, I guess.
So the hardest day, we actually took kind of like, not bets, but...
At the beginning of the trip.
On the beginning of the trip on what this would be.
I thought the hardest day would be day 3 because it was long and uphill. It was like 12 miles and uphill.
Yeah.
And you were like, you thought it was day 1 because it was long. Yeah. And
it was long.
I don't know, maybe you knew more about the trip than me.
It was long, and I knew the hardest miles would be at the end. That was why I was like...
It was deceiving because it was downhill, so I was like, oh, it'll be easy. But it was like the hardest downhill miles of my life.
Yeah, it got really physical.
Yeah, it was very physical.
So I think we were in agreement the hardest day was day 1.
Yeah, so Hardest day, day one.
Yeah, we didn't even
13 miles, like 11 hours of hiking.
Yeah, we didn't even make it to where we wanted to camp. We camped 5 minutes before. We were like, no.
We couldn't do it anymore. I can't
stop here.
I can't scale one more cliffside to get to this stupid spot. We're camping here for all the frogs.
Yeah, we were 5-minute walk from our destination. So we did get to go check it out.
We did look at it.
But we didn't camp there, and we didn't care that we didn't camp there. Easiest day.
Today. For me.
Like, I think that's a hard one for me to do because I thought day 2 was easiest physically, but
I definitely
mentally, I thought it was one of the tougher days. And I thought today, the last day, day 4, was the easiest mentally because I didn't have to think.
I think that I would have agreed that day 2 would have been easiest if we hadn't done the hike out to Elves Chasm.
Yeah, that was really rough.
Because it ended up still being like 6 miles, but it was like
all
the 3
scrambling.
miles to Elves Chasm and back in the heat made that really physically hard for me.
Yeah.
So that's why for me that is a harder day.
But I think
I think that's always hardest and easiest is like very personal.
Yeah. I mean, like, probably overall,
because everybody can have their own specific challenges within a day.
Yeah. But I thought today was fairly good. Like, not too bad.
I think your feet were hurting you more than me. Like,
they were just tired.
Like today was fine for me.
My feet were just like, no. And I struggled to get up this morning, too. I was like, I don't want to.
So I'm apparently Alpine Star Allison. Which I didn't realize I was. But I was like 2 a.m.? Oh, 3?
3.
30? No, how about 3:15?
We compromised on 3:15. Okay. Toughest moment.
Oh. Toughest moment. Like, that's so hard to specify. Maybe when scariest moment was on the wall, on that wall on day 2.
Yeah.
But toughest was after, like, for me, mentally toughest. I don't what is the context of this toughest? Mentally, physically, or all encompassing?
You could do both if they're different. Like, that's fair.
I think, like, toughest was after we got up that slog up the Garnet Canyon. Mm-hmm. And I, like, had a mild, like, breakdown of overwhelm. Yeah. That was, like, my toughest moment. It was short-lived, but it was, like, it just all swooped over me in that second. Yeah.
I mean, that was very understandable. That was a very rough time. I was not thrilled. I would say my toughest moments, I think I had more than one because there were 3 different tough moments in different ways.
Yeah. That's what I was like. It's hard to pinpoint.
I know. I ran out of water on the first day.
Oh, yeah.
And
Meg did, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, I could see the spring, but I was tired and exhausted, and I could only see a really, really hard, sketchy way down, and we kind of agreed that we were not going to, like, abandon each other in those moments. Like, we're going to wait for each other. But I was like, I need water. And I ended up, like, doing some funky, scrambly thing where I dropped my pack into, like, a halfway point to climb down to the water, and then realized that I was stupid and there was a really easy way to get up and down this section that
it wasn't obvious.
It wasn't obvious, though. That is true. It was obvious from the bottom.
When I looked at it, I was like, how the F we gonna get down this? And you're like, there's an easy thing. And I was like, okay, like, explain it, spell it out, because I don't see it.
And I like went against the rules because I was like, I need water. And I was just like, this is where I'm gonna die. Like, I'm gonna fall here. I'm gonna fall here because I'm being stupid. And it just felt really, like physically tough and tiring for me to, like, my mind was just so frazzled. I think the other really tough moment I had was on the rappel because I was just sweating my ass off. I just was, like, pouring sweat, and I was, trying to make sure that everything was safe and I was being safe, and it was just like a heads up moment, like a really tense time.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure our bags were tied in so they didn't,
because everything was so high consequence.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't always like, okay, this is a super technical rappel.
Yeah, no.
But you're like, if I drop the bags, that's all of our food,
and
all
we
our
can't
way,
get it.
like, and there's no way to recover it.
Yeah.
If I'm not tied in correctly because I'm like tired and not paying attention, like that's death.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
all these things were just so high consequence.
Mentally, that was my toughest moment, I think, mentally. Because it was just, I had to be at 110%. And I was just like, I'm dying.
Yeah.
And then I think the Garnet Canyon was like I broke there.
Yeah, we both. You held it together though.
Kind of.
I was like, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now. I just want to let you know.
I was like, it's okay. I was literally like rage. I was so ragey. Allison was like, I think we go up this. I was like, no. It's like, just no.
Yeah.
And I was just so mad in that moment because I was so tired of route finding because it was like day 3. So I think those are kind of, because they're all slightly different, like, you know, tough for different reasons, right?
I agree.
Biggest win?
Shit, like the whole trip.
Yeah.
But if I had to say something specific, I mean, like, I was really proud of us on day 3 to, like, haul our ass 9 miles before it got, like, I think before 11, and find a troll cave to hide under a rock in the heat of the sun. I just felt like I was just like, we're such smart hikers. Yeah. I was like, the Rangers would be so proud of us. Yeah. I just felt responsible and like smart and like, I'm not gonna die in the heat. Like,
yeah, and the reward was such a sick campsite
nice.
And such a beautiful sunset. I think too, day 3 was the biggest win. It felt like we had like unlocked.
We finally found our stride with the like brutality of the desert.
Yeah, we were like, we can overcome this and we can survive this and thrive almost. Like we
were humbled a little bit. I think day 1 and day 2.
Yeah,
and we were like, okay,
we got to adjust our plans. We got to adjust our strategy.
Respect the GC.
Yeah,
a little bit harder.
Yeah. And then we talked about that one. Okay, cool.
But yeah. Overall, like, it was an amazing adventure.
Yeah, I've never really gotten to the top or bottom, I guess I should say, of a backpack and been, like, done with it and been, like, immediately, like, what am I going to do here next? Like, and, well, I actually have. And then I came here. After getting my butt kicked so hard, I was like, I can't wait to come back and have another adventure in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Because it's a very special place. It's one of the most unique places to backpack in the world. Like, you don't know till you go. You just got to go.
Yeah. And I feel like with this trip, I was telling Meg in the middle of it, I was like, I don't know if I would do this again. Like, it's been really tough. Like, nothing I couldn't handle, but, like, tough. And I don't know. But then at the end of it, I was just, like, so proud. I'm like, you know what? I think I would fucking do this again.
Yeah.
Like, it was, like, a weird, 360, which I know, like, I always do that. But I told Meg, too, when I said I wouldn't. I was like, I'll probably change my mind in, like, 3 days. But I'm also just, like, I think as a backpacker, it's really satisfying to go out and do something hard and see yourself rise to the occasion and use all the different. It was really unique to use all the different skills that we've acquired from, like, climbing and, like, even bouldering and, like, hiking and alpine climbing and, like, put them into one
trip.
thing.
Yeah, one thing.
It was really unique.
Yeah, it was really cool to see how each of us shined in different places and spaces, right? Like, it was really, really cool to, like, watch Allison move through the boulder fields and be like, I was like, oh, shit, like, she just, like, handled that.
Yeah.
I was sitting there being like, head injuries abound.
But
like,
then Meg was, like, super, like, confident in, like, the alpine or, like, high exposure. Like, I have some of that, but I don't have quite as much as Meg does in, like, where you're not on ropes in the high exposure areas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you definitely handled that with a lot of confidence, which gave me confidence, too.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a really cool way to, like, work together as a team because we're both experts at what we do, but in different ways. So it was awesome to learn from each other.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
But all in all, it was a great trip, and yeah, I'm sure we'll have lots of other random resources that occur from this experience.
Yeah, as we're both content creators and can't help ourselves.
And, you know, if this airs on a podcast of mine in the future, hopefully they'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, so check it out. Check out the show notes.
We wouldn't necessarily recommend this route to people unless they have a lot of skill.
Yeah, you need to have proficiency in anchor building. You need to have proficiency in rappelling. You need to understand how to route find on rock. You need to understand how to route find on trails. And you need to have a lot of grit, and you need to be able to haul water.
I also think you should really have like some alpine climbing experience, or like at least climbing experience.
Yeah.
Because there was just so many like moments where I would be scared frozen if I didn't have some confidence moving on rock at high exposure.
Mm-hmm. Or moving down rock, canyoneering experiences. You know, you needed all those things to come do this route. And if that sounds like you, then you should get on after it.
Then you might be a good candidate.
Yeah.
But they will even tell you, like the rangers said, like they don't recommend this route.
Yeah, I went in and asked about it when I was in the Grand Canyon last time, and they were kind of like, we don't really like encourage people to get on that.
Because there are literally like so many ways to get yourself
in over your head.
Or in over your head.
And there's not a lot of option for rescue.
No, it's not a place that is easily for self-rescue.
Yeah.
Or easy for rescue or self-rescue, honestly.
I'm just kind of going to live there now.
Yeah. But thanks for tuning in, and we're out.
Peace.
Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.